Shadow the Hedgehog is the last game of its kind to feature another character in the Sonic universe as the primary protagonist, and I think it's safe to say that there will never be another Sonic game quite like this one. If you're familiar with the game or played it as a kid, you probably know where I'm going with this, but if not, oh boy, you're in for a treat for this video. Yeah, needless to say, the opening cutscene for this one sets the tone for the rest of the game and instantly tells the audience that this will be unlike any Sonic game that came before it. Shadow the Hedgehog was very much a game that was a product of its time. I've outlined in previous videos that the early 2000s was a massive turning point for many game companies and marked a major shift in tone for the subsequent releases of that era. To sum it up quite simply, the Xbox and PlayStation were in a major rat race to draw gamers towards their brand, leaving Nintendo behind for those people to label as too kiddie or not targeted for adults. One company I didn't really dive into during that time was Sega, and that's because the last Sega console to ever hit the shelves was the Dreamcast in 2001, and it was a total market failure compared to expectations. The Dreamcast was released in Japan in November 1998 and nearly a year later in North America. This was an odd release window, as the PlayStation 2 would release in Japan in March of 2000 and was announced around the time the Dreamcast released in North America. Had the Dreamcast launched in 1998 in all territories, they likely would have seen more success. However, failing to get a foothold in Japan against Japanese competitors, Sony and Nintendo, the North American market was always going to be essential to the Dreamcast's success. When consumers heard the popular PlayStation brand would receive an update, one that received DVD playback, had the controller they preferred, and more popular game series they were accustomed to, the Dreamcast suffered. Many consumers decided to wait to purchase their next console, as the later release date had many thinking the PlayStation 2 would be significantly more powerful than the Dreamcast. In reality, they were actually pretty similar. For those deciding not to wait, the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 were being sold at budget prices and were an attractive proposition as consumers waited for their successors. The Dreamcast was simply not released at a good time, as it arrived in between console generations, which caused confusion and reduced its appeal. Following the failure of the Dreamcast, Sega was at a loss and with limited options moving forward as a company. The solution they settled on turned out well for them, all things considered, primarily becoming a third-party game developer for the consoles that they once were competing with. Despite losing out in the console business, Sega, as according to Metacritic last year, still has some of the highest critical praise out of any third-party gaming developers, with an average score of their games being 81.6. They also arguably have some of the best franchises in video game history, such as Yakuza, Total War, Shin Megami Tensei, Warhammer, Puyo Puyo, Company of Heroes, and their most beloved franchise and ace in the hole to date, Sonic the Hedgehog. In the present day, Sega is actually making a living with doing cross-platform media content with their top-selling franchise, especially with the 2020 Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which was very successful in the box office, despite its growing pains to start out with. And while the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise is still trying to make up for its most controversial video game release in 2006, there was a time 1 year prior in 2005 that Sega attempted to take the Sonic series in another direction entirely. And that new direction for the Sonic franchise spawned a game that will be the subject for the rest of this video, a polarizing experience that left Sonic fans conflicted and somewhat confused, to say the least. As mentioned in the beginning of this long-winded history lesson, Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, let me begin by talking about the overall tone and more mature direction Sega was going for in this one. The idea of a Shadow-based game having a darker tone can certainly work. However, it is of my opinion that Shadow didn't need more to his story, as Heroes already wrapped that up pretty well. But the general idea of the story based on Shadow focusing on his moral ambiguities and delving into many hypothetical scenarios he could take is a pretty intriguing one in my eyes. But the execution was just dreadful. Shadow was already a cool character and a great contrast to Sonic. While Sonic is upbeat, extroverted, fun, and charismatic, Shadow is more reserved and introverted, but still has a charming sense of charisma to him, with the occasional quip and one-liner which helps him bounce off Sonic well. Shadow was very much a character trying to escape his past and redeem himself from being a life form created specifically with the purpose to destroy, making him an interesting character when his morals came around and he began helping Sonic and the core cast of heroes. But all that being said, this game ditched that entirely by giving him guns and motorcycles and adopting an I don't care about anyone but myself personality. All of this surprisingly makes him laughable to watch, and he ultimately becomes very difficult to take seriously, which was clearly the opposite of their intended goal. Shadow always struck me as the type to not use guns. Because he has his own natural abilities which require skill, he would more view them as the same way as Batman, a weapon for a coward. Although I'd be lying if I said my inner 8-year-old didn't find the intro to this game cool as all hell. The way Sega tried to pull off the sudden change of character for Shadow is by using the frankly overdone trope of making him lose his memory, giving him a fresh start as a character, and undoing all of the great progression we saw him undergo in previous titles. The game opens with Shadow having a flashback to a young girl named Maria being gunned down by the police officers, and that's all he can remember. On top of that, a massive alien invasion threatening the planet is taking place, and the Sonic team is fighting back. Both sides of this conflict are seemingly at a standstill, and the only character in this game that could turn the tides for either side of the battle is Shadow. The majority of the game that follows is the players progressing through the stages and making one of 3 decisions for Shadow. Do you choose to help the Sonic team defeat the aliens and restore peace to the Earth? Do you choose to help the aliens and put an end to humanity and the Sonic team as we know it? Or do you choose to stay neutral between both sides, gaining power for yourself and instead recovering your lost memories and becoming the most powerful creature in the universe, letting this conflict rage on as you enact your selfish goals and desires on the planet that robbed you of your identity? Okay, I'll admit that as I was writing that out for the script, the concept sounds even more badass than before, but thinking about the game itself leaves me even more disappointed as a result. Let's talk about how the level design and choices presented to the player intermix with each other. As you're going through a level, you will encounter 2 different characters that have their own specific goal they give you to beat the level. For example, in Westopolis, you have Sonic and Doomseye. Sonic's objective is to kill 45 aliens, and Doomseye's objective is to kill 35 soldiers. The player can then make a decision on which character they want to assist, and if they manage to complete one of the 2 objectives, then the level ends right then and there. Alternatively, the players can just go to the end of the level without helping either of the 2 characters, which would progress the neutral path of the game's story. Shadow the Hedgehog makes use of this gameplay loop throughout its runtime, having the players go through level after level, assisting whoever they please in the process. At the end of a stage, the players are greeted with this map of the levels they have completed, and depending on who the player chose to help, will progress them accordingly. If the player chooses to help the aliens, they will move up diagonally, and if they choose to help the Sonic team, they will move down diagonally. Completing a stage without assisting a character moves them forward 1 stage without going up or down diagonally. And having this progression system where the player gets to choose which path they want to take effectively allows you to replay the game multiple times without having the same experience twice, until you realize the game's levels are extremely repetitive and missing out on a few of them probably wouldn't hurt all that bad. Especially this piece of shit. These choices made by the player progress them towards one of the game's 10 endings. Yes, this game has 10 endings. For a completionist, there would be good incentive to replay the game a few times to see everything it has to offer. However, replaying the game to see all the stages and switching allegiances is a messy undertaking marred by poor design. The fact of the matter is that any level of serious planned strategizing is wholly unobtainable in the intensely frantic makeup of this game, whose mechanics perpetually dart Shadow forward with both limited visibility and control. In turn, even when gamers are trying to fight alongside Sonic and his friends, they will accidentally dispose of hordes of allies and even zoom into and activate switches they were supposed to ignore. This truth renders the entire operation of choosing sides more difficult than necessary. The good news is if you decide to side with the Sonic team and you accidentally take out a soldier or 2, there really are no consequences other than hearing the disappointment in Sonic's voice. Additionally, much like most of the other 3D Sonic games that came before this one, it was clear that some levels were designed for players to be able to speed through. If players want to play it fast, they absolutely can, with the game housing roller coaster-like stages complete with loop-de-loops, corkscrews, and pinball bouncers that send Shadow zigzagging up and down environments at remarkable speeds. This all sounds fun and good, right? It absolutely is if you're fine with taking the neutral path throughout your playthrough, as the goal in that case is to simply get to the end of the level. But if you want to complete an objective for the aliens or for the Sonic team, the game forces you to slow down to complete either side's objectives. As I mentioned before, the 2 objectives for the first level in the game is to either kill 45 aliens or 35 soldiers. These aren't arbitrary numbers thrown out there by the developers. There are exactly 45 aliens and 35 soldiers in that level. You have to kill every single one in order to finish the objective. What I'm getting at here is you will be flying through the level in satisfying fashion and then will be forced to stop to kill all the enemies. This brings the gameplay to a screeching halt and creates more frustration for the player than anything else. If you happen to get to the end of the level and miss one alien somewhere along the way, you'll have to either backtrack around to the beginning or use one of the warp points to go back and begin your search all over again. This simply bloats the overall experience and makes the levels longer than necessary for the sake of inconvenience. Now, let me touch on the last topic I want to cover in this video, the story. Setting aside the fact that this game is unironically hilarious.
Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
It's very clear that Sega took some very detrimental shortcuts with this one. For one, I have no idea why or how Sega decided to go for the E10 plus rating this game got, as I really think it took away some creative freedom from the team that would have benefited this game in its entirety. For example, in this mission, Shadow is assisting the aliens in literally murdering the President of the United States. Shadow shoots down the President's plane before it takes off, where it explodes with absolutely zero chance of survival for anyone on board, but then in the very next mission, he's just magically okay again. Just a minor headache, it's all good, really. What I don't understand is why would you be gunning for an E10 plus rating and then be willing to make your main character try and assassinate the actual president? It makes zero sense in my brain. Another thing that just cracks me up about this game is how in your face the characters say damn like children that just learned what swear words were.
Damn it. Damn, not here.
Damn, they got away!
Damn, dead end. Guess we have to take our chances with the tornado. Damn, only 5 minutes left. Let's hurry. Damn it, we only got 1 more minute before all the bombs go off.
Damn, we've been detected.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
Damn you, Shadow. Damn you.
Damn it. What does it all mean? With the power of these emeralds, I'm going to destroy this damn planet.
I mean, I'm not opposed to having a Sonic game where the characters swear, but something about how it was written into the scenes in this game just come off as goofy and take me out of the moment every single time. I can pretty much say the exact same thing for the story in this one. It's just written so badly that when I learned there was an 11th secret ending you could unlock after getting all 10 original endings, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Upon finishing several playthroughs of this game to get enough footage for this video, the game had far outstayed its welcome in my brain. Shadow the Hedgehog was, in retrospect, not a good game. And I point out the obvious here because I played through this as a kid and can honestly say when you're at that age, you have no concept of what's good or bad. I thought my frustrations with this game were due to me not being a good player, not the game just being a steaming pile of ass wiped in a bow and shipped out 2 years early. The long and short of this video is that Shadow the Hedgehog, unlike its predecessors, lacked an ounce of polish and thoughtful level design that made the series so popular in the first place. I can always respect thinking outside the box and trying something different in the industry, but only when an actual attempt is made and not when you're doing it to conform to the changing landscape around you. What you get as a result of that is a game with no heart, soul, or passion behind it, and instead a rushed mess of a title that gets lost in the sea of time, forever wasting in mediocrity. The most frustrating part of this game is that it could have been good. The premise of Shadow dealing with the moralities of good versus evil in his own game was genius in my eyes and could have led to a well-written, thought-provoking story. Instead, Shadow the Hedgehog will live on in infamy as being the start of a long, dark decline in quality for 3D Sonic games, and a stain on the franchise that it is so desperately trying to rid itself of 17 years later.
Damn you! No! It's not true!